Evening, everybody. Oh, I'm going to wait for everybody to jump on here and wait for us to get going. I think I got all my goodies set here for a little while. All right. Well, as you all know, I've been kind of took that poll of what I wanted everybody's opinion on what tool to share, and it came down between, oh, I got it over there, the martingale collar or yada da 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 prong collar, and here's prong collar. So first things first, I want to explain to everybody this session for today is not a session for bashing if people use this or not use this, if they've had luck, if they haven't had luck, because this is probably one of the most controversial tools that there is out there. So first and foremost, I want everybody to understand that I'm doing this for educational purposes only. I can't remember the last time we used one of these at work, okay? However, please know that there are a lot of people out in society, everyday dog owners, that are using this. And so this video isn't for people to say, hey, you shouldn't be using it, hey, you should be using it. I just want to show people basically the right way to use this tool so we don't do any damage to our dogs, because I'm sure everybody has seen the dreadful pictures of the prong collar that is, making its way around social media and just the negativity that goes along with it. So I have to get that out of the way and just get that out there so everybody understands where I'm coming from. So anyways, the prong collar. All right, I have my little friend here, which I'll move the camera down so you guys can see this girl. I had this big old thing. We were my wife and I were in Maine a couple of years ago, and we're walking by a store, and I saw this thing sitting out by the doorway, and I'm like, I think I need that for work. And so at that time we were using a lot of the halty work, and this was super easy to teach people how to use it, how to put it on the dog and take it off. So that's where this girl came along, and now she's just hanging out in the office looking pretty. So, but we don't have a name for her. I don't think we ever came up with a name for her. All right, prong collar. First things first, you are going to notice that there's a lot of these points, if you will. And sometimes the prong collars will come with the rubber tips that are on here. Sometimes they won't. I think it all depends on brand name and whatnot. This is a Herm Springer collar. You can see it'll say Springer right on it. So it's a very popular brand name of prong collar. Now, when it comes to sizing these collars, this is the big part of the misuse of this thing, is making sure that we are using the right kind of size. And, when it comes to this is the part that bothers me. I'm honestly, this is the part that bothers me, is that anybody can walk into a store, grab this, slap it on their dog, and who knows what's going to happen. And that just, it kind of sends a shiver up my spine, because there isn't the educational piece that goes along with this. So that's the big part of it. Now, the other thing too is that you see these prongs, if you will. To many, this looks like a medieval torture device, right? Now, the way that this really works is, there's obviously different sizes of these links, if you will. So these will pop out, some of them more easily than others. There. These will pop out, and so here it is sitting by itself, okay? It's one of the links. And so this will slide in. You got to pinch it. It's sometimes a little bit of a pain in the butt. Most people will think they have to get a super large prong collar for their dog that's like 30 or 40 pounds. Some of these prongs can get huge, meaning wide, thick, large, the whole thing. And so we really don't have to get them that huge. But we don't want to get them too small either. This is the catch-22. If we get them too big, then we end up with only like 2 or 3 links. And so the whole idea of this collar is that if it was on a dog that was this size, and that there was pressure applied, all these points are going to hit the dog's neck all the way around at the exact same time and pressure. So when we have something that's doing this all at the same time, we're providing an equal amount of pressure around the dog's neck the whole time. If we were using this to where we were just doing this with one link at a time and providing pressure for this one link, now we're getting into the realm of like poking in and it really, really hurting, right? You can take one of these prongs, push it up against your finger hard, and it's going to hurt, all right? But if we take this and we put it over and around something that's a little bit thicker than me, everything's going to hit at the same time. Do you see this? This would be too big for my arm. I'll get into all that. Okay? This would be too big. But, so the whole idea is, for the prong collar, is that there's equal pressure the whole way around on this collar. That's the way it's made. And so you can see at the very top, you have, this is where the leash would go in. Okay? This would be the back of the dog's neck, back down here. Okay? So I'm going to just slide this on so you can see it. I'm not sizing it. Please don't think that I'm sizing this right now, because I'm not. I should have done this the other way. Oh, poor thing. She's even been peed on in our office too. Dog came in one time, went over, sniffed her, lifted his leg, and peed on her. Don't tell anybody. All right, so I'll get this on. And so now you can see this. I'm going to get me out of the picture here for a second. So now you can see this, okay, is that this acts almost like an extra loop here. Do you see? So this is what helps provide the even pressure the whole way around. This is like the martingale. We'll get into the martingale a different night, but this is what this is all about here, okay? So this is the mechanism that basically applies pressure, relaxes pressure, applies pressure, relaxes pressure, okay? That's all a part of it. So now that we understand that point of it all, I'll get this back up on me here. A lot of moving parts. Okay. So, even pressure, right? This goes around, but now we have to size this correctly, all right? How do we size this correctly? Well, number one, we have to do this. Look, this is way easy. I'm making this look easy on a dog that has the best stay command that you've ever seen in your life. It's not easy with a dog moving around. It's not easy. It's really not easy with a long-haired dog, and with a dog that maybe wants to bite you too, which that's a different show. But so what we have to do is we have to pinch these little prongs to fit them into these circles. So this has to get pinched together to fit in, and then we have our link. You see? All right. So now when we fit this properly, the prong collar, look, this is super duper important. The prong collar should never sit on a dog like a necklace, meaning it should never, you see this part of my sweatshirt here? It should never sit down like a necklace down here, because if for some reason the dog hits the end of that leash and it's, the leash straightens out and it pops, that prong collar is going to pop and it's going to bang into the dog's neck. And that's not good. You should not be using this if you're using pops and corrections with your dog. It shouldn't. That's not fair to your dog. If you're doing that kind of stuff, this is not the tool for you. This is what I mean when it comes to education with the prong collars, that we need to be aware of this stuff. We need to be aware how to use it, when to use it, how to apply the pressure that we need, everything that goes along with it. All right? So we have to size this. And so I usually start about halfway down from the top, or at the bottom, and I kind of split it in half, and that's where I open it up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera back down so you can see how to size this correctly for a dog like this, this sweetie pie here. Isn't she a doll? All right. Okay, so here we go. Remember, you guys, this isn't about right or wrong. This is educational as far as this goes. All right, so now you see me. I'm going to wrap this around. Make sure the ear is out of the way. Now look, do you see all the extra slack if I put this in? Do you see all this sitting here? This is what we don't want, because this is where this would sit on this dog. You see how low this is? This is way down, way down on the dog's shoulders. Look at how far down this is. Hopefully my camera can go down. Look at how far down this is. Way too far down on the neck. That's the other misconception about this too, is that it has to sit really low. No, it's actually quite the contrary. Because down here is where dogs are very strong. We don't want to be down here. We want to be way up here behind the ears. And here's the reason why. This down here, this section, and I was going to do a picture of this on the Facebook page today, but I'll put it up in the morning. This down here is made for pulling, meaning this part of the body, not the collar, this part of the body above the shoulders. This is when dogs get very strong and they want to pull, especially when they feel the resistance of a normal collar here. This is where all the pulling comes from. Halfway up, when we get into this section here, this is when we get into the choking. You're going to hear the all that kind of stuff, and it's just annoying to the dog. And then up here, if you've ever watched like a dog show on TV, like a Westminster or whatever kind of show, you'll always notice that this is way up high, right? Way up high behind the ears, right? Kind of, you know, it's fit snug. It's fit snug. It's not tight. All right, there's a big difference between snug and tight. You think about that. Think about putting on your belt. What would it be like if your belt felt snug? You know, it's there, right? Tight is like, ooh, that's too tight. I can't, it doesn't feel right to me. So that's the difference. But look at the gap here. This is what we cannot have. We cannot have this at all. So I have to adjust this. So this is what I'm going to do so you guys can see. I think this is probably a couple of links I'm going to start out with. And this is the trial and error that goes along with it. So this is what you're going to do if you have to go out and buy a prong collar. I'm not telling anybody to go out and buy one. If you go out and buy one, you should be talking to a trainer first. You shouldn't be using this on your own. That's just my opinion. All right, so I got to take out a couple of links here. That's my guess. I don't know. I haven't used one of these in... I almost had to clean the dust off of it. All right, so here we go again. I'm going to go back down. Here we are going for a ride back down to see our girl here. So I'm going to go up and under. Let's see how this fits. I might be right. I might be wrong. I don't know. The other thing, too, is she's a short-haired gal, right? She's very short-haired. And she's very stoic, by the way, too, in case you guys hadn't noticed. She doesn't give you a lot of feedback, but that's what happens sometimes. All right, so this isn't too bad, but there's a little gap down here. So I'm actually going to take one out and see what that gives us. You guys, look, this is dog training. There's no magic like, ooh, I know I have to take 4 out and it's going to be perfect. No, it doesn't work that way. Not at all. So we're going to see how this works with our girl. She's got quite the throat going on here too. All right, so I think she's a little bit of a tweener. Because this is good down here. On the back is a little snug, but not bad. I think we'll go with this. I think this is kind of our look here. Now, the other thing too is if you guys noticed, all right, when I first put this on her, I'm going to put this up for a quick second. When I put this on her, maybe I'll do this. This is my girl. When I first put this on her, this whole thing slid down, right? And one thing to remember about collars is we're always fighting gravity. The collars are always falling. I've seen so many tools and everything out there of like what you should use when it comes to collars and how it slides down the neck and how it stops. I have yet to see one. So especially if you have a short-haired dog, that collar is going to slide down. You're going to have to continually readjust everything, and that's all there is to it. But one thing that's not happening now with her is what? It's not sliding down, right? That's the whole goal of this. It's not sliding down. It's staying up here. So the position of this is actually right behind her ears. So when I turn it, I'm going to give you the side profile. This is her good side, by the way. Nice black eye, right? Okay, so look, this actually looks like it came down a little bit. So depending on her build, and here's the other thing too, is that if we were walking, she's going to be more, she looks so forlorn about this, right? If we were walking, this is kind of where I would want this, because you see the back of her head is right here. It's right there. So this is all a part of this. You see? Look how high this sits on this dog. You see it from this side? And we see it from this side as well. And you see, look at how much around. That collar, look, it's gonna, don't ever shake your dog, by the way. I don't condone that. But do you see how it slid down? It's gonna happen, all right? It's gonna happen, especially walking along. And then normally when you get one of these collars on, what does the dog do? They kind of do that shake, and it's like that. We call it the wet dog shake, and everything loosens up. That's all a part of it too, all right? So this has to get what? Readjusted. So we readjust it back up, all right? So this is where it has to sit, is right behind the ears, right behind the ears. Now, here's the thing. Again, you should not be doing any popping, yanking, all this violent stuff with this tool. You shouldn't, not at all. If you're doing that, you should be seeking out professional help, because it's not helping anybody. All right, so this is the loop here where the leash connects in, right? And so when we're walking with this dog, this should be loose with the leash. This should not be steady pressure. Remember, any pressure on this means that all these links are all moving in at the same time. So there's equal pressure the whole way around this dog's neck the whole time. And this is the way that the collar is meant to work, all right? But this, we have to walk with the dog with this loose leash. It has to be loose. That's all there is to it. And so the more we walk, guess what? This can get all the way down here. We're fighting gravity. It's all a part of it. So this has to get readjusted, and it has to be put up here. If somebody's telling you that the prong collar should be put down low so it doesn't do anything to their neck, it's wrong. I know it. It's crazy. But this is something that we have to be very, very cognizant of. I'm going to touch on this again because I think it's super important. And you guys notice I repeat myself, and I'm sorry. But obviously there's a lot of people that come in and out of things like this all the time. So I want everybody to know this way down here, when the collar is way down here, when this gets like this and the leash starts pulling, this is when the dog wants to pull against this. How many times do you see somebody walking their dog and the dog is out in front, the owner's back, they're pulling, the dog's pulling, and it's just this mess. That's all there is to it. And this is this area down by the shoulders, by the neck, pulling. This is the pulling position, if you want to call it. Then halfway up, when we're really getting into the trachea, down in here, this is the choking. This is when you're going to hear that and then the cough, like they're clearing their throat, and it's a mess. And then when it's up very high, this is when you're not going to hear that. And then this is also when this function is going to work the best for you as well. All right? So if you're walking your dog, keep this slack. If you need to apply pressure, we're just going to slowly apply pressure. That's it. But this stuff needs to happen first. You need to practice in your house on this tool first. Let the dog learn what this feels like walking around. You know, if you put the dog on a leash on this thing in the middle of your living room, and you just stand there and you let the dog move around a little bit, you act as an anchor, let the dog work its way out to the end of the leash, and when it does, this is slowly going to tighten, and then the dog's going to go, whoa, that's a foreign feeling. That's really new. What is that? I don't even know what that is. This is where we have to start with this collar. That's all there is to it. You have to start with this collar inside. Most of the time people will take this, they buy this off the shelf, they go home, they put it on their dog, and then they take their dog to the spot where they usually have trouble with their dog controlling it. And then they expect this tool to do all this work and be able to snap their dog out of it. And unfortunately, that can make things much worse for the dog and for the dog owner as well. And so to be practiced in the living room first. And then when the dog is 100% comfortable with this, then we go out to the driveway or the front deck or the parking lot or the sidewalk, and then we do the same thing out there. We just stand still, we're an anchor. And so when the dog hits the end of the leash on a nice gentle walk, just being curious, and they feel this tension, well, that's a different feeling to them. And then from there, if there's constant tension on the leash, then we just take one step just to get rid of that tension, all right? But we have to teach this to the dog first. Just like what I'm doing with you guys, I'm teaching you this tool first. And this is the same conversation I would have with somebody that was sitting right in front of me as a client who said, if somebody walked in when we reopened and said, Ian, I want a prong collar on my dog, and they were dead set against that and they don't want any other tool, okay, I'll give in. But this is the same conversation I'm going to have with them that I had with you. We need to learn about these tools first before we just go and slap it on our dog and then just hope for the best. Because unfortunately, that's not going to be the best case scenario for anybody and everybody at all. And so that's really what this boils down to, is teaching the client first, teaching the dog owners, and then teaching the dog what this feels like, teaching them just gradually, little by little by little. Our kids go to school. What do? First grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth. They're way up through. We just don't take our 5-year-old, throw them into high school, wish for the best. Whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. It doesn't work that way. So we have to do it with them too. We have to work on the dog, teaching them the tool first. So I know there's some people here that are dog still pulls in the prong collar, and it's because they weren't told or shown what the collar means, how to go about it, because then from there, then the dog gets used to it. And so I've seen dogs get completely desensitized to harnesses. I think we all know that. Dogs also get desensitized to the flat collar because that slides down and then they pull and pull and pull. Dogs get desensitized to a martingale. They get desensitized to the slip chain, to a slip leash. They just get used to it. And so when there's nothing that reinforces what's going on, then that's just a nightmare altogether. And then so I had a dog one time come to me who had a prong collar on 24/7. And this was early on in my career, so I didn't think anything of it. And so when I took that dog for a walk, if the dog got out in front of me, I'd give a little, a little tag on the, little pop on the leash, and that dog didn't even blink an eye. It was so used to this prong collar. I mean, it was like so desensitized to it. I'm sure her neck was probably like just calloused over or something. I don't know. I don't even know if she ever took it off, ever. And so times too, guys, these things get heavy. And so, if you are in the market for this, don't do it until you see a trainer, please. Please do it for me and do it for her. Don't do it until you see a trainer. It's just going to be better off that way. A lot of times too, people will get the smaller prongs, like the smaller links. And here's the thing too, is that you look at this, and so she's got links from here to the other side. Okay, so from this finger to this finger, this is all links here. Now, so I'm going to even count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She does a great rollover. She loves her belly scratches. So 8 links. If we were to put a small one on this dog, a small prong collar, way more points because there's so many of them. So then you get more pressure per square inch or something. I don't know. There's some fancy term for it. And so we have to make sure that the links fit the size of the dog and that we're not going vice versa, one way or the other. So, and then this only goes on when we're working with the dog. When you are physically working with the dog is the only time you are working. The only time that this goes on is when you're working with the dog. When you're done going for that leashed walk, all this has to come off. We can't let the dog hang out in this all day. Not cool at all. All right. So this is the prong collar, you guys. I'm glad so many people were into this today too, and I was quite surprised with the whole martingale thing compared to prong collar and how it was kind of even for a while. So the next video I'm going to do, I'll do on the martingale, and we'll use our girl here too for the same thing because she does fantastic. Never bats an eye and doesn't eat any treats, so she does quite well with it. But so again, you guys, this is I hope this helps some people out. I love the interaction that everybody's giving here, and see, so there's a little bit of slack up at the top of this, a little bit of slack. Daniel, I use a slip leash, but it's not a lot. And see, so if I took one link out, let's see if I can do this up here. This is going to be tight. Tight, tight, tight. Yeah. This is too much. Look, now there's like zero give to this, which means that this is constant pressure on the dog, and we don't want that. That's not fair to the dog. Dogs understand the whole, like, you know, if I feel something, I need to try to get rid of it, or what can I do to get rid of it kind of thing. And then if they do something they're supposed to, and then we take away the pressure, but that's a whole different, I don't want to get too deep into everything. So this is too tight. Look, it's hard to eat up off of here. So that is not something that we want at all. So the right size would be the extra link that goes in. So that is that. Oh, she's a fancy girl. She's so good with that kind of stuff. All right, so I'm going to zip back through because I know there might be some questions, and holy cow, the amount of people that this got up to was a record for me, by the way. I think we got up past 80. Yeah, so Kelly, your dog does this at the end of the leash so tight that she chokes. So number one, position, we talked about that, right? The position should be right up behind the ears. That's number one. And then making sure that it's fitted correctly. Position and it being fitted correctly is super duper important when it comes to this. Delta pulls too, especially when she's birds. Yeah, so then we're talking stimulation. You guys, around stimulations, you don't need a tool like this. You need to create more distance to get the dog back into your brain. That's all there is to it. See, this is the thing, was that we think, Stacy, I'm glad you said that too, because this is the perfect example of when it comes to this tool, is that we look at our dog in the stimulation and go, wow, my dog's really intense. I need an intense looking tool to combat that. And that's not the case. We need more distance so we can observe our dog's body language. We can see what they're doing mentally. We can under control. And then we can take one step forward and take our time instead of going to a medieval looking tool. And most people do think it's medieval. My dog still pulls with the prong on correctly. The pressure means nothing to him. It's just it's desensitized. It's going to have to be reteaching. Making sure, obviously, that it's sized correctly or that it's positioned correctly. If not, you may have to go to a different tool and then start over again. Tracy, I've got a video at the top of this Facebook page with leash walking and how we introduce a slip lead. So you can do this, you guys. Whenever I say slip lead, it can pretty much almost 100% of the time be traded in for clip leash and a martingale collar. I mean, they act pretty close to the same, but there are some differences. Daniel, Ian, do you utilize food when teaching the dog pressure of any collar? I don't normally, Daniel, unless it's a dog that I wouldn't be against it by any means, but I usually don't. I want to have them feel it organically first. I want to see what their reaction is with it first before I introduce any food, because we just have to be careful when we're rewarding a dog, because we can reward a dog for what they're doing physically, but we also got to know what we're also rewarding mentally too. So mind and body have to be in sync for the reward to work. That's all there is to it. All right. Yeah. Doesn't faze him. Some people bring dogs to my kennel in a prong and want it left on while boarded. No way. Absolutely not. Guys, we don't allow in daycare, we only allow quick release. Just have the pinch and they pop off. Those are the only collars we allow. Because, I mean, holy cow, if this got caught up with another collar, that would be lights out. It would not be good at all. Same thing with a slip chain. Sometimes there's just the slip collars too, right? It's just the 2 rings and it's just sitting, which is like a slip chain, but it's the nylon version. And then buckle collars we don't allow because you actually have to tighten those in order to loosen them. And so that's a no-no in a daycare boarding environment as well. So let's see. Would you only use with an aggressive dog or any dog that pulls? Claudine, this isn't my go-to tool, so I'm not going to start this off with an aggressive dog or any of the dogs that come to us, honestly. Everybody's getting started out on a slip lead first, and then I'm going to go from there. I need to see what I can get done with a dog first, and then go from there. So, yeah, this isn't my go-to tool, but I just thought it'd be good to educate on this. I found a head halter very effective when walking 120 pounds of reactivity. I've not ever used a prong. Yeah, a head halter can be good. I'm very familiar. I did that for a couple of years, and I have my opinions, but if I get to doing a video on a halter, I'll get in deep with it, but probably not tonight. Let's see. How do you know when to transition off that type of collar? Adam, that's a great question. Great question. So for a collar and a dog like this, if you are on this, if the dog is starting to act very well, behaving very well, listening to you, this is when we have to tone it down. So if the dog is doing everything that you want it to do, right? Look, if we're at this level of intensity, if the dog is up here and you feel like you had to use a prong collar and you're up here too, if the dog has gotten softer and listening more, well then why should we keep using this? Do you see? So then we maybe reintroduce something different like a martingale and take a step down. And then we're going to work on this for a little while. And then when they soften, then we can just go to a regular collar. Do you see? We have to go with the dog. So if they get softer, we have to get softer. Because if they get softer and we stay up here, we're overpowering, and that's going to cause a problem in the relationship. When it comes to that, it's going to cause a problem. So this is where it has to be understood as far as the tool goes, what your dog is doing as well. Good rule of thumb for proper fit is being able to fit your finger between the prong tip and the dog's skin. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like the e-collar. I have a no-pull harness and it worked great at first, but now he can, it just pulls anyway and bucks so he can try to slip out of his harness world. I'm honestly thinking about training May to a harness walking because I complain about it all the time, and I'm like, you know what? I should flip this on myself and do it and see what I can get done out of it. So, here's a good one. First time I saw one, I was on a Great Dane. I thought it was cool. I tried one on a 10-year-old beagle that choked, coughed for the entire walk. She walked like a princess and actually was able to enjoy the experience with the prong collar. Later, I had an English Mastiff that my 9-year-old daughter could walk with a prong collar. I only used it for a while. Take it off when inside. You got it. You got it. Thank you. We have one, and a trainer suggested we use it, but I do not like it. Cannot wait to see the martingale video to see how that should be used. Yeah, that'll be next, because that was second in line. So, yeah, you guys, that's the prong collar. That's what it boils down to. You may hear people call it power steering. The other thing too is sometimes elderly dog owners, this is quite handy to them when they don't have any physical or very little physical strength and they have a medium to big size dog. And so, for somebody like that who may not be getting out a lot to do a lot of training, sometimes something like this may help them out. And so you guys, there are times when something like this might be the best fit. I don't know. But at the same time, there's going to be other ways to do it too. So it just boils down to it. But If you get one, if you get one, just be super duper careful, you guys, please, because it can do some damage being used the wrong way, and we have to make sure that we're using it the right way too. So that's kind of what's going on with that. All right, you guys, I will do the next video on the martingale, so you guys can all be familiar with that. I'll use my girl here because she did awesome tonight. She's going to get a little scratch behind the ear for doing such a good job. And yeah, you guys, thank you so much for doing this tonight. I am working on a little project, and I think it's going to go over quite well. So that's it for tonight. I'm going to sign off. You guys, I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy, and we will catch you later. See you guys.